Guruji for inviting me here and the kind introduction. The topic today is destiny and free will. The mind has always been interested in knowing about these, hasn't it been? The individual that we sometimes call as man, sometimes refer to as the ego, sometimes as the self, the fragmented self, is always curious about this particular topic because it is related to his freedom. He wants to know whether he really does have any free will, any choice, any real power to determine things by himself, or is it a totally deterministic world? That's what makes everybody very curious in this topic. The ego wants to know to what extent are things destined and to what extent does its own discretion, does its own will and volition apply and matter. And when we look at it, superficially at least, it appears that these two, or a combination of these two, are the only options available to us. It seems that man is either destined or he does enjoy a free will, or his predicament, his position lies somewhere in between, but on the same plane. And the first glance also suggests as if these two are opposites of each other. As if those who talk about destiny are taking a position counter to those who talk about free will. At least that is how psychologists look at it. So a Skinner, for example, would say that we are purely mechanical, and had all of our past been known, then our future could be predicted with absolute certainty. It is just that we do not have all the data about the past. So he says, well, everything is destiny, there is nothing called free will. And then there are other intellectuals who take a counter position. They say, no. Man's consciousness has an important role to play. Not everything is predestined. That brings us to an important word, intellect. When we are talking of intellectuals, intellect. I ask you, are both of these, destiny and free will, not concepts of the intellect? And in that sense, are they really opposites of each other, or are they the same thing? That might surprise us. How can these two be same or even similar, because these two are supposed to be the two ends of debate. Destiny versus free will, that is what we always say. How can these two have something in common between them? I want to assert that just like the two poles of duality, these two are not different at all. They are one and the same thing. And they both are mere mental creations, mental concepts and imaginations. And like everything else that is mental, the ego wants to think about them because it seeks security. Because it wants knowledge as a tool for contentment and fulfillment. Let's see. When we say destiny, what is the mental model that we have? We mean that there are two entities. One, the self, the me, the ego. And the other is the universe with its whole history of evolution. And the other determines the me. The universe with its entire vast systems, with its whole time and space, with its cause and effect chains, is determining what I am and what I would be. So what am I doing? Please see what am I doing. In talking of destiny, I am creating a me that is separate from the universe. Even if it is controlled by the universe, yet I have played a very smart trick with myself. I have said that even if I am at the mercy of circumstances, even if I am at the mercy of all players outside of me, even if I am just an evolutionary product, yet I am. And this I amness is not the same as what the Maharshi would call as the Atman. This I amness is the I amness of the ego. The ego that wants to retain its individuality. So in talking of destiny, the mind has done what the mind always does. It has preserved itself. The world is acting upon me, so I am. You see, we are so insecure. We somehow want to convince ourselves that we are. With death looming large around us, with everything being so ephemeral, there is always the threat of us not being at all. So through thousand means, the mind wants to convince itself that it is, that it really is. The Anitya trembles in fear and somehow wants to touch Nityata. On the other end of the spectrum are those who talk of free will. Let's see what the mind is doing when it is talking of free will. Again, a mental model is being constructed in which the ego is there, and the ego has the power to determine, to act, and if the ego has the power to determine and act, certainly there has to be a substance upon which it will act. That substance then is the universe. Again, the same division is being created. Again, I am saying that I am there and outside of me something else is there, and I act upon it. The mind really is a trickster. Superficially, it is a debate about determinism, but actually, it is the same old strife. The ego somehow trying to assert itself and using the intellect as a tool, using argumentation as a tool. To a silent mind, I ask you all, where is destiny? And to a silent mind, where is free will? In your deepest moments of joy, are you thinking about destiny? Immersed in freedom, are you conceptualizing about free will? Submerged in love, would you want to get into this debate, destiny versus free will? These questions arise only to the troubled mind, and these questions give no peace at all, because there can be no peace in a dualistic debate. There is peace only in silence beyond this debate. Whether we take this position or that position, either end of duality, we are only fragmenting. We are only creating a self and a world outside of the self. We are only trying to violate the basic principle of duality, that the two ends, though seemingly opposite of each other, are actually one. The contradiction between them is just superficial. They are not different at all. But the mind won't be satisfied by this much only. It still wants to know what is destiny, what is free will. Just telling it that this debate is useless does not help it. We are basically restless beings. Man is nothing but restlessness personified. And if you tell restlessness that you are uselessly restless, that doesn't assuage it. That doesn't help it. So we'll have to come to the question, what really then is destiny, and what really then is freedom, and what really then is this thing called will. If you look at the etymology of the word destiny, destiny means something that is established, that is there. In that sense, the word destiny is very, very close to the word truth, sat. That which is, that which really exists is destiny. Usually we place destiny somewhere in the future. Usually we act as if destiny lies in time, and time brings us to it. That is not the real meaning of the word destiny. Time does not bring us to destiny. Destiny is that which we really are right now, timelessly, spacelessly. Destiny is not what we will become. Destiny is what we are. The self, the Atman, that is our destiny. And time is a very inefficient way to come to it. Most of us want to use time to come to the timeless. It's a very circuitous route, very long-winded, unnecessarily tortuous. And it fails. After all that it takes and promises, it fails. Even after hundreds of years and hundreds of births, time alone never brings anybody to timelessness. There are different dimensions. One can keep roaming on this floor for centuries. That would not make him fly. The sky is a different dimension. You will never come to your destiny. When you drop all thoughts of coming and going and becoming, then you are what you are and you have reached your destiny. Your destiny has been revealed to you. That's a better way of saying. What is our destiny? The non-dual silence is our destiny. That is what we really are. Nothing more can be said about it. In fact, saying even this much is a transgression. But as we said, the mind is like a restless monkey. It needs some fruits to entertain itself. So we have to give it some words. Some concepts have to be given. But even when we are treating the mind with concepts, we must ensure that concepts are kept to a minimum. Concepts must be like Om, which is a word, but the most minimal of words, which is a sound, but a sound that is quickly dissolving into silence. Only that minimal quantity of concepts must be given to the mind, and the mind must be of a nature that is able to sustain itself on only this much. That is the meaning of austerity. That is the real meaning of austerity. Austerity is not about eating less or consuming less. It is about having a mind that thinks less. And even without thinking, it is at peace. That's what we do. We try to use our peacelessness to come to peace. We try very complex ways to come to simplicity. Because that's the only tool available to the mind. The mind does not know simplicity, it knows complexity. So mind will use violence to come to love. Why are you fighting? Because we love each other so much. Why do you have such a large army? Because it is a peacekeeping force. And don't we give those names? After all, what is happening at the macro level is just a reflection of the micro. What nations are doing is just an aggregation of what the individual mind is. Now, freedom and will. I want to ask, can there be freedom when one system is acting upon the other? Can there be freedom when there is me and there is the universe, and the universe is not me? Which means the universe by definition is outside the control of my volition. That is the definition. There is me and then there is not me. This not me is the universe. can there be freedom? If by definition I have created a model in which there is something outside me, where is the question of freedom? That which is outside me has a life of its own. That's how I have defined it. Now where is the question of freedom? The other will always limit you and your freedom. There was this famous existentialist author, Sartre, who said the other is hell. He might not have said this in a deeply spiritual sense, but I find it apt to quote him. Because the other would always limit your freedom. Let me put it this way, otherness limits your freedom. The moment there is something that is conceived as outside of you, where is the question of freedom? Would this wall correspond to my will? It is outside of me. But mind you, there is this wall outside of me only as long as I am this body. And the moment you talk of free will, you are definitely thinking of yourself limited in space as a body. Now, this is quite amusing. On one hand, you are defining yourself as a limited being whose contours are decided by the extent of his skin bag, whose flesh and blood decide his very expanse, and on the other hand you are talking of freedom. What freedom? You do not even exist outside your body. Where is the question of freedom? Your first slavery is that you are limited by the dimensions of your body. Where is freedom? Where is freedom? So, the first step for those who talk so much about freedom is that they really inquire into their body identification. They really inquire into their identification with anything. This is a world of opposites. This is a world of duality. The moment you identify with something, you have left out its opposite and companion. You have reduced yourself to a half. Where then is freedom? Unfortunately, today, the only definition of freedom that we know is either the freedom to do something gross or subtle, or the freedom from something. We never ask the question, freedom from whom? And we have lots of intellectuals and liberals who are constantly talking about freedom, but they never answer. They never ask in the first place, freedom for whom? Who is it who wants to be free? Who is it who is so particular about maintaining his freedom? They say there is something that we do not want to do. So freedom for us means freedom from that activity or freedom from that obligation. So I don't want to take a bath in the morning. So freedom from taking a bath. And I'm crazy about pizza. So the freedom to eat a pizza. That is the definition of freedom that we have. freedom. Freedom from something or the freedom to do something without even asking whose freedom are we talking about. Can the ego ever have freedom? But the ego is the one that rants the most about freedom. The saint has hardly any problems even when slavery comes to him. For him, even bondage is sacred and holy. But the egoistic man is deeply concerned about his freedom. He will say, no, this is the touchy subject. Don't talk about it. And you see there are so many codes and constitutions that are placing the highest value upon freedom. That is how the most profound words are misused. See how words like love, freedom, truth, and joy are misused. See how we have equated joy with entertainment and pleasure. See how we have brought down truth to the level of subjective facts. See how attachment masquerades as love. And these words have gained great currency. We all use them so casually, don't we? They have entered our everyday parlance. I love the way you look. Smoking is sheer joy. Tell me the truth. And we keep on saying these things. Is it any wonder then that the destiny versus free will debate becomes meaningful and so attractive? A mind that is attracted to such notions about truth, joy, love, and silence would also be attracted to knowing the extent to which it is being controlled by a power outside of itself. Only the total can have freedom and will. And that will is a non-dualistic will because it does not operate upon anything. The non-dual, by definition, has nothing outside of itself. So there is nobody else to act upon. It laughs within itself, it dances within itself. It is its own joy. It loves itself. And sometimes, in a jolly mood, it divides itself into an infinite variety. And sometimes, in the mood of pralaya, it obfuscates all divisions again. And then there is nothing but a singular silence, all pervasive. From Prabhav to Pralaya, one thing is common, that there is no other, just the one. general. My submission is that debates must be left to the intellectuals. They can do no better than debating. And they are proud of this prowess, that they can talk a lot. Let them talk. Spirituality is not the province of words. We all know how much Maharshi loved Maun. Whenever two things appear to be different, let us please remember that both of them are false. Because difference itself is the guarantee of falseness. If it appears as different to anything else, it cannot be. Only names and forms appear different. Only limitations and boundaries can be used to say that this is this. And only then it can be compared to something else and said that this is different. We have this wall here. And we would like to assert that this wall is different from this floor. Why? And how can the mind even come to that assertion? It is because this wall has a boundary. It is because this wall is limited in space. Had this wall had no boundary, there was no way to claim that it is different or similar to anything else. And boundaries are false. What is the criteria of falseness? The criteria of falseness is that it exists only in time. It has come as a result of time, and very soon time will obliterate it. It is not there. There is neither destiny nor free will. There is only the great, wonderful, beautifully expressive silence of the truth. You can call that silence as destiny, and only in that silence is freedom, and only there is will. Everything else is just conceptualization. I would like to proceed further by having your questions. Yes, please. Yes.
Then how should we live? I mean, because there are events which are happening in our life, which are, some are positive, some are negative. So how should we live? We should just live, whatever happens, happens, because we are one with the universe.
You see, when do you call something as positive? When do you call something as negative? When something pleases the ego calls it positive. When something goes against the grain of our conditioning, we call it negative. Events are just events. They are happening. To label them as positive or negative is to create a false center from where you are looking at events. And even this phrase has gained great circulation these days. Positivity. Positive thinking, positive energy, positive action, positive attitude. And I keep wondering, what is this positive thing all about? You know, positive and negative are always with respect to something. You have to place the zero somewhere And on one side of the zero you will have positive, and the opposite side will be called as negative. Who is determining where to place the zero? We don't inquire. We don't inquire that fundamental question, who am I? Koham is missing from our lives. Positive with respect to whom? For whom? That is the reason why what is positive for one is highly negative for the other. Don't you see that? Two people are quarreling. What is positive for one is negative for the other. There is a seller and a buyer. What is positive for the buyer is negative for the seller. What appears like positive thought at one moment would become severely negative the next moment. But we want to talk so much about positivity. It is because we are living in an age of faithlessness, where the only center that remains is the center of the ego. We are not devoted or surrendered to the real center. The real one is missing. That is why there is so much positivity. When the real comes, then positive and negative all dissolve into zeroness. They cancel out, neutralize. Kindly be cautious when talking of positive attitude and this and that. The scriptures never talk of positivity, never. Neither do they talk of negativity. They talk of the truth and the illusion, but nothing beyond that. How to live life? You see, even as we are talking, is life not being lived? Is the question how to relevant at this moment? How many of us are thinking at this moment as to how to listen to me? Where is this how to relevant at all? As you are listening to me, are you first deciding how to listen to me? Or are you just listening? Are you just present? Or do you have a method to listen? Is there a particular way you are approaching my words? You are here and things are happening. They are just happening. Without the intervention or support of thought. But thought wants to ask, how to live life? What if we do not think? Will life stop? Then samadhi must be death, because there nobody is really thinking. All is resolved. There is no how to left. Just being is sufficient. In great faith, leave everything else, because there is nothing else. There is just this. Everything else that you think of is just that, a mere thought. You want to think of the future, you want to think of a method. Where is the future? And strangely enough, even as we are here, engaged with each other in a friendly way, in a loving way, the future is already taking care of itself. Have we not spent some 15, 20, 30 minutes already? Have we not? Has the future not been taken care of even without thought? Have we really planned how to listen? I did not come here with a plan. about how I'm going to discuss and what I'm going to say. Neither are you sitting here with a plan. Yet the future is taking care of itself. And taking care of itself so nicely, so smoothly, so beautifully. Nothing is amiss in this moment. In fact, if we are really connected to each other, we are not even thinking of time, aren't we? Are we thinking of time right now? Existence has a way of taking care of things. Let's have a little faith. Yes, please. Yes.
You mentioned that if two things appear to be different, they are thought to be false. So how do, and particularly because they are in a particular paradigm of time. So how do we actually visualize the birth and death actually? Because
Visualize?
a living body is dead one day actually. So, there's a living body, then there's a dead body.
Yes,
There's
beautiful.
birth of a child.
Yes, yes, yes.
So how do we see
Yes.
there's a change,
Yes.
a falsity in that?
Yes, yes, surely there is. Life that can turn into death is surely false. Here in India, we have a beautiful word, Dvij. It means born for a second time. I take it as really born. When birth is equated with the coming of the body, then that is not really birth. Because it is just the coming up of thoughts. It is not the body that is born, thoughts are born, time is born. And just as time is born, time will also lapse, go away. Real birth is that which transcends death. We have said that you are really born only when you are no more in the risk of dying. If you are constantly inching towards death, moment by moment, then you are not living at all. What you are calling as life is just fear of death. And is that not so? If we look at our daily actions, is not every single action motivated by the fear of death? And hence the need for security, and hence the need for self-preservation. Those who have known have said that this cannot be called life at all. You just call it death, you are already dead. Don't say that you are alive. If you are living in the fear and shadow of death, then you are not alive at all. Death will not come. Death has already come upon you. To attain real life means to come in contact with something that cannot die, that is beyond time. That time has not given you and time cannot take away. How to live then? We need to go into ourselves and inquire whether there is anything with us that time has not given. Time has given the body, time has given the thoughts, the ideologies, the religion, the nationality, the possessions, and what time has given, time will take away. Yet, it is possible to have something which time does not give, which others do not give. And what others do not give, time cannot take away. That is when we call human life as realized, sarthak. That you can also call as enlightenment. That you can also call as Sahaj Yoga. To come upon that which you cannot get from anywhere. You cannot get it from anywhere because it is what you are. You cannot get yourself from outside. Life and the purpose of life is to come to that aloneness, that untouched, pure aloneness, where there are no others. Where there is no movement or change, where there is complete security and fearlessness. Obviously, there is no death there, because death is just another name for change. And if we have not come to that point, then as we just said, life is nothing but the trembling shadow of death. You look at our daily actions, for example. How we run after insurance, how we run after having a chain of successors, how we are particular about leaving a legacy behind us. We are in South Delhi right now and we have so many monuments here. What is all that? That is nothing but a failed attempt at defeating death. Can I have something that outlasts time? I know the body will be gone, so let me have a mausoleum. Even that structure is of brick and mortar, time will bring it down. You will be defeated. Come to something which the world has not given you, which society or tradition or knowledge has not given you.
Is time then a reality?
It depends on who is asking the question. For whom is time a reality? The one who thinks himself to be a product of time, for him time is surely a reality, in fact the only reality. If I ask this question as a man who is 50 years old, then for me time is surely a reality, because my basic self-definition is that I am 50 years old. If I am so deeply identified with time, then for me time is of course a reality. Often somebody would introduce himself as, I am the father of an 80-year-old. Now obviously for this person time is a reality, because that's his identity. I am the father of an 80-year-old. Let's celebrate our marriage anniversary. Now for this fellow time is obviously a reality. If time is not a reality, from where has the anniversary come? Let's celebrate our birthday. By celebrating your birthday, what are you establishing? You are establishing the dominance of time, nothing else. In 1,000 ways, we hypnotize ourselves and we convince ourselves that time is real. And when we have so thoroughly convinced ourselves, obviously time becomes a reality for us. That's the thing about Maya. It is, even though it is not. Ya ma sa maya. That which is even without being is called maya.
So which one was born first? Thought or time?
Is this a thought?
Sorry.
Is this a thought? Or is this a realization in timelessness? There can be no thought that does not consume time. Only realization is instantaneous. Thought and time go together. Thinking always requires objects. No one can think objectlessly. Whenever you are thinking about something. That something is an object. And all objects are in time and space. So thinking and time are two names for the same activity, for the same movement. Yes, please.
Your name is Jnani. There is no destiny or no free will for a jnani. For an anjani, freedom of will is there in the sense whatever he is doing with the intention that he is doing, this intention is there, this thinking is there, then he has to suffer the process.
Yes, well said.
If he is not thinking that way, I am a truth and it is God's will that is operating, then he is not having any process.
Yes,
Still not.
yes, yes.
So, there is nothing like that. You cannot immediately say that there is no free will for a jnani. It is there.
Yes.
It is also there.
Yes.
Only for a jnani, destiny is not there.
Yes,
Free
yes,
will is not
yes, yes, yes.
From your thing, there is illusion to truth. How I can go from the illusion away and then to the truth? That is what we want.
From where is this question coming?
It is because I am anjani.
You see, if I am a total ajnani, will I ever ask how to get rid of my ajnan? Go sharply into this very moment, this question that you asked. Go very close to it. The question is, how does one move from illusion to the truth? I'm asking, is this very question not an action of the truth? Had you been nothing but a bundle of illusions, would you have asked how to go beyond illusions? It is the memory of truth that makes you search for truth. It is the grace of truth that makes you seek the truth. So when you declare that you are an ajnani and you want gyan, gyan is already at work. Without the work of Gyan, this question could not have arisen in you. Remember, left to itself, the ego will never want to seek the truth. The ego would want to seek concepts about truth, but not the truth, because the truth is the death of the ego. Left to itself, the ego never wants the truth. So, just as you ask this question, you are no more an ajnani. In the moment of asking this question, you have transcended ajnana. Let more of us ask this question again and again. But again, that cannot be free will. Grace has to do that.
I want to ask, just like a fish swimming in water,
Yes.
does not understand what water is, because it is limited by its capacity, because it is floating in that medium. Similarly, we as human beings are limited by our understanding of the cosmos, because we are not built or made by creation to understand the creation.
Yes.
So should not we be stopping analyzing and just be? Because I have seen in many places, even scientists and so many people are obsessed with existential questions. So just like a fish is at peace, just swimming in water, and doesn't try to understand who am I, why I am, in which medium I am swimming. So we are also, as human beings, are limited in our, because the way we are built, our brain, it is limited in its capacity to understand the entire cosmos. There are things which even today we don't know. So analyzing who I am and from where I have come, rather than that, just enjoy the beingness of us and then just live. So my question is that why we have this obsession of analyzing on.
Why must we inquire at all? Why must we ask this question at all? Why must poem be asked at all? That's your question.
Yeah, this we have.
Yes, we get.
We are on this planet enjoying
Yes.
beauty.
You see, a fish never asks, who am I? But then a fish never even tries to say that I am X. If you can be totally like the fish, wonderful. But the thing is that you are no more like the fish. Does a fish ever say that I belong to a particular religion or cult or path? Does a fish ever say that it has a name? Because the fish never says I am X. Hence it also has no need to ask who am I. But you keep on insisting that you are somebody. I am X. So you need to deeply inquire into the validity of your own assertion. It is because you keep saying that you are something, hence you must inquire into whether what you are saying is truthful at all. If you are like a fish, then it's all right. But a human being has to drop a lot to gain fishness. Otherwise, our fishness is just a concept and hence very fishy.
So, sir, so my second point is.
Please understand this point first.
Isn't it the society and the family and the education institution which have actually forced us to label us that this is I am, and over maybe millennia we have become like this.
Yes, well captured. You know, when you have been covered with so many identities, when you have been covered with so many statements, all beginning with I am, I am, I am, I am, I am, then obviously you will have to ask, whether any of these I am has any substance to it. And you have captured it very nicely that the education system has a great role to play in that. Layers upon layers of identification are imposed upon us. So you will have to ask this. You will have to ask this. To come to your prakriti, the animal nature, from the current state of vikriti is a great advancement. You know, we love to say that would we be like the animals? Often when we want to address somebody in a derogatory way, we say, don't behave like a dog. The fact is, a dog is far more advanced than a human being because it has only one layer of conditioning, the prakritic layer. Man has two layers, the prakritic and the samajik. So to come to the state of the fish, you really have to be somebody. In fact, the scriptures categorically say that the jnani appears so much like an animal and a madman. What is common between the animal and the madman? Both do not live by the dictates of the society. That the jnani appears so much like an animal and a madman, of which the most classical example is the avdhut. Yes, please.
Sir, if I talk of who am I, and and then we talk of submission, faith, that just be and have faith. Then there are two very classic examples given at different places. One is that of Arjun, where Krishna is the charioteer and he's sitting, but he's not just sitting; he's also aiming or he's doing his work. He is striving towards something that he feels is right. Another example is that of a man who is just sitting on a boat, and everything else is that vast river that we call, and they're just in that boat and it's going. So who should we think we are? Like, if you're Arjun, you have to do something. You have to strive. But if you are that man sitting on the boat, you have to just let go. So who we are?
There is no difference actually. There is no difference at all. You see, the situation on the field of Kurukshetra is often grossly misinterpreted. In fact, all interpretations are misinterpretations. We think that it is Arjun who is not wanting to act, and Krishna compels and convinces him to act. The fact is otherwise. Arjun is greatly acting in his non-action. What is the definition of acting? When you take upon yourself the role of actor, then you are acting. So one may just sit on this chair, not budging an inch. But if he thinks that he is the one who is sitting, then he is greatly acting. The whole message of Krishna is, why do you think of yourself as the actor? Act without being the actor. In that case, the second instance that you quoted is just what Krishna is teaching Arjun. Sit on the boat and let the boat move with the river. The movement of the boat is analogous to the movement of the bows and arrows. So Arjun, let your hand operate. Pull out the arrows and use the gandiv. You are not the actor. Anyway, I am the actor. Krishna is taking away the onus of doership from Arjun. Arjun, you are not the doer. I am the doer. I am the mover of the universe. Why do you think you are the doer at all? You just flow with the river. You are in a battlefield, and what happens in a battlefield? Fighting happens in a battlefield, so fight. Just as water flows from a high level to a low level, you must also shower your arrows. You are not doing anything. You are just flowing, Arjun. These two situations are just the same. Do not be deceived by appearances. You know, a man may appear to be not doing anything, and yet he may have a great deal of doership in him. And a man may appear to be doing a lot, and yet he may be totally inactive from within. Don't go by gross appearances. When Arjun is not fighting in chapter 1, Vishadayog, then he is doing a lot. And when Arjun has surrendered to Krishna and he is actually fighting, then he is not doing anything, because whatever is being done by Krishna. Arjun is not doing anything. Only in chapter 1 of Gita is actually Arjun doing anything. As the chapters advance, Arjun becomes more and more of a non-doer. His karta bhav sublimates.
Sir, when you are in this path, like faith and being, become like, it looks like the other people as you are careless. Maybe you are not talking about future or what is my plan. So people around you think that you have left everything, you don't want to do anything, and you have become careless. How to handle that? Sometimes they remind you every time and that bothers.
You know, even though they taunt you and tease you, yet they are fascinated by you. It's a very loving satire that they throw at you. Take it that way. Even though they may say that you are careless, yet their heart craves for the same carelessness, which is actually just being carefree, not careless. They may say that you are irresponsible, but deep within, they are yearning for the same freedom from obligations. So let them mock you. Let them jeer at you. You are actually serving as an inspiration to them. They may not admit it. Even when Jesus is being crucified, Christianity is being born. Don't go by appearances. It appears that Jesus is being killed, but what is actually happening? He is converting people even in his death. Even though they are not only mocking him, but actively killing him. Yet, the rock star is gaining a fan following. That very moment. Let this not terrify you. One requires to be a Jesus to be crucified. Not everybody is crucified. So don't be so. Yes, please.
You work very hard to get into IIT and IIM. So you think there was no worship there, or it just happened?
You see, a lot of people work really, really hard. Had it been about hard work, then I could not have been there, because I'm so sure that a lot of my friends worked way harder than me. It is not, somebody clears, let's say, the civil services exam. You read his interview, and the fellow has said that I worked very hard, 12 hours a day. And you feel that it is hard work that has taken him to success. What you do not see is that there were lakhs of other aspirants who worked for an equal number of hours. Why did they not succeed? Had it been about hard work, then they too should have succeeded. This is the faulty attribution process that the mind often engages in. It does not want to acknowledge something beyond its own doership. We like to claim that it was me who succeeded because of his own personal hard work. We like to claim that. It is something more and beyond hard work. It is a little different. A lot of hard work appears to be happening. I do not deny that.
That is called destiny. So we have to accept destiny.
That's destiny.
What you are doing, that is called destiny. So we have to accept it.
Whether or not we accept it, we are it. We don't even have a choice in accepting it. You see, we again want to assert as if we have a role. Look at the ego. Even when we say that I accept destiny, you are implying as if you have a choice to not to accept it. Do you really have a choice?
So in the action, the mind should not be used. While acting, mind should not be used.
Mind is being used by another agency like a slave. Action will happen through mind because the action happens in this universe of space and time. So there the mind and the intellect will all be used. But like an intermediary, like a slave. Not bonded labor, a willing servant, a surrendered lover. A surrendered lover. Please.
Keeping in mind two debates like destiny versus free will and chance versus choice. Like destiny is not a matter of chance, it is a matter of choice. how well can we correlate or conclude the two? Is it Atmagyan at the end of the day, or what is it exactly?
You see, when we say Atmagyan, we mean some kind of theory about the Atman.
Yes.
A theory is just that, theory. You can have a theory about this water bottle, you can have a theory about this electronic instrument, you can have a theory about this camera, you can have a theory about the bones in the body. You cannot have a theory about the Atman. So you can have Atmabodh, and Atmabodh means nothing. Atmabodh really means nothingness.
So how we perceive, it varies from person to person. How somebody is taking a destiny versus free will and chance versus choice.
As long as there is perception, there is no realization. So don't perceive.
So there is no requirement of meaningful observation. This is what is.
Observation is not perception. The Buddhists have a beautiful word for it, apperception. They do not even call it perception. As long as you are perceiving, you cannot observe. Because your eyes will be covered by your own prejudices. Observation is when you are not there. That is real objectivity.
And when the object disappears, the subject also disappears. Or
Obviously.
In addition to this, I just wanted to quote an example. Someone told me that just like a camera lens, it just observes. But our eyes, they first observe and then the brain processes it with prejudices into something then which we store. So become a camera lens.
No.
What you see through the lens is what you.
Friend, we have a camera here and it does have a lens. Is anything happening to this camera? Many of you would have entered a certain piece. Is this camera experiencing any peace? Do not become a camera lens. Observation does not mean becoming mechanical. And this camera has a receiver that is sitting so close to me. Yet is this really listening? It is recording everything, but is it really listening? It has a memory of everything, but is there any understanding? Do not become a camera lens. Observation is understanding without thought. Please understand this. Merely saying that you are thoughtless does not mean that you are observing. Understanding without thinking. And you need to have faith that you can understand without thinking. That you can listen without analyzing.
Without analyzing the thing, what you are telling, I am not going to any conclusions about that. I have to analyze the fact of what you are talking. Then only I go reach a point, so my eyes and ears are all in that way is working.
Yes.
My mind will always be working.
Yes. We all like to conclude because conclusion means end. Conclusion means full stop. So the mind says, come to an end. Why be constantly alert? Conclude and close the box. But conclusion does not mean understanding. Conclusion only means that you have come to a particular statement that you are now taking as the truth. Never conclude. Because conclusion, I repeat, means an ending. Truth never ends. Yes, please.
You said that the mind and intellect can be used like a surrender lever. Now, would there not be the byproducts of blood, sweat and tears?
Byproduct of?
Would not there be byproducts of blood, sweat and tears? Because there would be effort and there would be this taking in of the force. So would that not be ego?
No, you see, I did not say that the mind and the intellect can be used like slaves, because the moment you say they can be used like slave, you have also created a user who is using them. The mind itself surrenders. It does not even know whether it is being used. That is the real meaning of surrendering. Otherwise, it is surrendering with calculation. If you know to whom you are surrendering, then it is no more surrender. It is a bargain. It is a trade. You are bowing down without even knowing to whom are you bowing. That is real surrender. I am not saying that use the mind as a slave. If you are using mind as a slave, then it is one part of the mind that is using the other parts of the mind. That is just self-hypnosis. As far as blood, sweat and tears go, obviously they are a part of what we call as bodily existence. So that happens in either case, whether one is surrendered or not. Kabir calls that as deh dhare ka dand. Because you have a body, so you will have to experience blood, sweat and tears. And further he says that everybody has to go through this suffering that comes along with the body. It is just that he says, Jnani bhukte jnaan se, Murakh bhukte roye. Both of them have to pass through it. Both of them have to experience it. But the ignorant one suffers and weeps. The realized one knows what it is, so he just passes through it. Jnani bhukte jnaan se, Murakh bhukte roye.
One more thing. Why did nature create this illusion if it is so useless thing?
It is not useless. It enables us to talk to each other, you know.
Hey, is nature not superior? Is nature not superior?
We are nature.
Nature is not human being.
We are.
Nature doesn't have any emotion.
Nature doesn't have.
Nature doesn't have any emotions.
Nature doesn't have any emotions.
Nature is emotionless.
It is like
What do you mean by emotions?
What I mean by emotion?
Is nature thoughtless as well?
Yes.
Nature is thoughtless?
Yes, it is not human being.
Okay. Then you mean Swabhav, or do you mean by nature
It
what?
don't mean anything. It is nature. Why you
When you say nature, what are you referring to? Are you referring to
You try to understand what I am saying. Nature is beyond our power of comprehension. Yes.
I cannot really try.
No, that is what you have been talking. When you analyze something, that means you are taking the role of a doer. Nature is beyond doer.
When you are asking a question,
Yeah.
the onus to explain the question is upon you. And then it is the attentiveness of the listener, whether or not he can gather what is being said. As I am speaking to you, it is my responsibility to make myself as clear as possible. When you are speaking to me, it is your responsibility to make yourself as clear as possible. Right? Thank you.
The answer is not there.
There is no answer.
destiny and spiritual both exist only in an embodiment. But when you are not embodied,
Please repeat. Destiny is?
destiny and free will is found in an embodiment only.
Yes. Only when you are identified with a body, yes.
Otherwise, this is not. When you use the phrase grace,
Grace.
does it mean that power of superpower is there, like what it is known as prarabdha or destiny, whatever it is known. When the grace word is used, that means there is someone else who is.
You see, we are creatures of flesh and blood. If our body is taken and dissected, there is nothing in this body that suggests that one can come to peace. There is nothing in this body that suggests that Buddhahood is possible. There is nothing in the brain that suggests that there is something called non-duality. Everything about the brain is dualistic. Yet it does happen that a bridge comes from somewhere and one moves from duality to non-duality. It does happen that the restlessness that is man come to a final relaxation. It cannot be explained by argument. It is called grace. Nothing can be said about it. There is no way to explain it. How did it happen? A man who is just a bundle of conditioning and hence prone to temptations, pleasures, evasive actions. How did this man suddenly come to know which has never been taught to him? How does one come to know that which no teacher has ever taught him? This is grace. And even to say that this is grace is to put a blemish upon grace. It should be left untouched. Not much should be said about it, like Om, as we said in the beginning. Not much should be said about it.
Last question, ask something from your profile.
All right, we have. Maybe this is the last one that we can take. Yes.
Sir, you spoke about freedom. And you said, no, I want to have a pizza today, or maybe I do not want to have something today. So can you elaborate a bit more about what is freedom about?
I'm not a pizza fan. What do you want me to elaborate on? There are many others here who can elaborate on that stuff.
Okay, so let me be more pinpointed.
Yes.
So I tried hard to come here.
Yes.
So my wife wanted to go to somewhere with me.
Yes.
So I want to come here.
Yes.
I'm free to go anywhere and you cannot stop me.
Yes.
So this is in this context.
Yes.
So when I say I'm free to go anywhere, so what do you actually mean by freedom?
You mean that you think that you are free. When you say that you are free to go anywhere, it is obvious that you won't go anywhere. It is obvious that you won't go even to the next room. It is obvious that you won't go even to the terrace or to the parking lot. But conceptually, you want to tell yourself that you have a lot of power and you are free to go anywhere. Are you really free? Is this freedom not just nominal? Is this freedom ever exercised except in imagination? You might be in a job and technically you are always free to leave the job. Technically you are free any moment to resign. Does that happen? We have soul-sapping, blood-sucking jobs and we keep regaling ourselves by telling, I am free to resign. I am free to resign. Are you really free? Had you been really free, had you been found there? First place, it is not even a question of resignation. Had you been free, what would you have been doing there in the first place? Your very presence there is out of slavery, not freedom. Yes, the last thing.
Yeah, here it says, time brought you to the service of the timeless. Marvelous are the ways of existence after moving to the service of the scattered planet. Time brought him to the service of the timeless. The question is, what does that mean? Second, is that the sort of service the highest or greatest or noblest?
Some things are just written for Here I am in front of you. No words or propaganda is needed. I'm in front of you.
Then it should have been not timeless, but humanity of.
Yes. You can read it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Friends, it's just a word from the Ramana Kendra here to sincerely thank Prashant ji for a position on not just destiny and free will, but something much bigger. And I am amazed that in this short time he has said so much about the fundamental approach and principles of Vedanta without using any jargon at all. It's one of the most enjoyable sessions I've had. And what strikes me today is so many young people are willing, like this gentleman who refused to go shopping with his wife, to actually come on a Sunday evening and listen to this. This gives me hope about our country. Whenever I go for satsangs and take part in them, I see a majority of people who are above 60. And I tell my wife how I wish working people, college students would come and understand the beautiful truths of our philosophy. And I really pray to Bhagwan that he gives Prashant ji a lot more of energy and so that he can carry on the work that he's doing, which I feel is transformational. I think what the younger generation or the present generation, people in jobs require is more and more of the type of advice that he's giving. I'd request you to, whenever you have time, please visit us, spend time with us, guide us. And on behalf of the Kendra, I thank all of you for coming and participating in this program.